Hello and welcome back to the Atmosphere's Electric. There's Fran on Rich. How are you, dude?
I'm all right, mate. You?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, not too bad at all. Glad the weekend is fast approaching and hoping for a weekend of better entertainment on my telly box from the football because if I'm being honest, I didn't really enjoy last week's games that much. I don't know about how you felt about it.
I thought the games themselves to watch were pretty boring. I was also concerned about some of the. I thought it was the weirdest set of results. I mean, you look down our predictions, we got two right, and it was Man City and Arsenal. Everything else, what we predicted, went wrong. And that's not to say that we're always right, but generally, we get a few more than that. I just thought there was such a strange set of results as well.
Yeah, I mean, going across the board, it definitely was a weekend of, you know, I think I messaged you on a Saturday afternoon. Like, if you come through the Saturday fixtures unscathed, you've done an unbelievable job because they were all over the place, weren't they? There was, I'm not even picking Sunderland as being the biggest shot, but at the start of the day, Brentford beating Man United obviously is going to ruin a bunch of backers. Chelsea getting pumped at home. Uh, Crystal Palace beating Liverpool, Leeds drawing with Bournemouth, Forest losing at home, Sunderland, Tottenham dropping points against Wolves, although we did talk about Dr. Tottenham. And then, like I say, it was just one of them game weeks where, and even you kind of stuck another one on later in the week, and then Everton not beating West Ham at home killed you as well. So, yeah, a very, very difficult week to get right. And the biggest winners in terms of the kind of feeling, the atmosphere, the league was probably Arsenal, right? Coming back in that kind of big game against Newcastle to win it 2-1. With everything else that happened that weekend, you'd have to say that out of all of it, Arsenal have probably nestled themselves the best, haven't they, out of the bunch in terms of where they're currently sitting and how they're looking moving forward.
I think so. Like you said, all results went their way. They also, I think, the manner of that victory as well boosts their confidence more than a 3-0 win. I'd say. Sounds a bit odd that saying it like that, but it probably boosts their confidence even more. Um, I'd sort of gone off Arsenal a bit. We mentioned about the style of play was a bit boring, but they were getting results. I think that result really sort of hammers home just how close they are to Liverpool. I said they might not be exciting, but they still are a good team getting results.
And moving on to Liverpool, do we need to start keeping an eye on them? Because again, they picked up a couple of injuries midweek. We were all glazing them, to use a young person's term, over the summer around their transfer window. But actually, Frimpong hasn't exactly kind of set the world alight. Florian Wirtz hasn't exactly set the world alight. Are they actually possibly weaker this season than they were last season?
I think it's an interesting conversation. Mentioned Gyokeres before. For me, he's been the flop of the season. He's been absolutely dreadful. I'd be starting Robertson every single week. I think Wirtz, like you said, hasn't hit the heights, but he's shown glimpses of quality. So I wouldn't say he's flop yet in that sense. He looks like he's just going to need time to bed in. Different style, isn't it? So it might just be that they're going to need those players to bed in and get that tactical change, tweaking quickly and get that bedded in too. I'd probably say at this minute in time they are weaker because they're having to amend style and players and get it to bed in. So yeah, I think they are weaker.
Yes, the problem with any player that you spend over 100 million on is that the expectation is obviously risen. So therefore, is Florian Wirtz a very good footballer? Yes, of course he is. I'm not for 1 second suggesting he's not a footballer, but you're expecting a bit more of an immediate impact, aren't you, for someone? Like if he'd have cost 8 million quid, everyone would be like that. I'll give him time. He's just got to get used to the new country and the way that they play. But you didn't. So therefore, the pressure's on immediately.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, if he scores a goal and it goes off his arse in the first game, everyone goes, "Oh, what a great start!" But all of a sudden, you get, I think, what was he, 7 or 8 games in, he's not had an assist or a goal. The pressure is on him, and I do feel for him. Like you said, if it cost 10 million quid, nobody would be talking about him.
No. No, yeah, like I say, again, you think about the Kirkies, and maybe that's the perfect example. I can't remember how much Bournemouth paid for him, but it wouldn't have been that much in the grand scheme of things because we were all being sort of waxing lyrical about how great the Bournemouth recruitment's been. But when he goes for over 50, 50, I think it's 55 million in, I think something like that, all of a sudden, all eyes on him, and he's in a massive club where at Bournemouth, you kind of, if you have a bad game, probably doesn't get noticed, if we're being honest. Whereas at Liverpool, big bucks and all eyes are on you.
I think what hasn't helped as well is his replacement at Bournemouth has absolutely hit the ground running and looks a tremendous signing. And the Liverpool fans are going, we could have got him for 10 million quid and he looks a better player than what we've signed. Just going back to the Liverpool point as well. it was only a couple of weeks ago that we were mentioning that they didn't look good, and we had all the Liverpool fans in the comments, replying back saying the top of the league, 5 out of 5 unbeaten, and we were saying Salah looks like he's declining. Oh, he scored these goals, that goals, and literally, some of the comments we were getting back, it's sort of come to fruition. Like how people can't. We weren't saying they were a poor side. People were getting the ump with it, being defensive and tribal. They haven't looked the same team, have they, that they were last season? So it doesn't surprise me to see them drop points. I mean, I predicted that they'd draw. I didn't predict that they'd lose, but it doesn't surprise me to see them dropping points. They haven't looked the same team yet. Kanate looks a shadow of the player that he was last season. They're conceding goals consistently. Last season, they weren't even conceding chances. So it doesn't surprise me to see them drop points.
No, I mean, and again, isn't that like a sad reflection of where we're at now as football fans, that we can't have a sensible conversation around whether a team is playing well or not just because you support a team? Like, we should be able to have a balanced conversation about. It's not like we're, or anyone for that matter, is kind of going, I hate Liverpool and therefore I think they're terrible. The point is actually what they did last year was amazing. We thought coming into the season they had a great transfer window. Actually, now with this magical kind of hindsight 2020, looking back, new contract for Salah doesn't look quite so great now as it did at the time, right? At the time, it's like you must lock him in. Now you look at it going, oh, I'm not so sure that was the right idea. So we are being clever after the event.
Exactly. And, when we were mentioning the players that they needed to sign, it was Van Dijk, Trent, Salah. We were saying they need to sign all of them up. Of course they do. They've obviously let Trent go and they've kept the other two. And like it's a bit of sort of with a bit of hindsight, isn't it? But a 3-year contract for somebody, was he 32, 33?
Yeah,
It does take him generally to pass the point of where players decline. It's not slagging it off. You're just now calling it with the evidence you've got in front of you. And I think some fans, most fans actually, need to stop being tribal. And if you can have a football conversation, have a general conversation. It's not anyone digging out a team or anything. It might be. Some people might have that conversation. But all we said was Liverpool don't look as good as they did last season. Yes, they've had new players bedding in, all of that sort of stuff. That doesn't mean that they're a poor side.
No. I think everyone's just got to chill out a bit. Like, I mean, this is really like in terms of if I think player X, and like there's not a bigger waste of time other than pre-match manager conferences. By the way, biggest waste of time ever. They don't tell you anything. We could save the planet immediately if we banned managers from doing a pre-match press conference. Right, irrelevant. The only thing that's a bigger waste of time than that is trying to change somebody's mind online about a player or a team. So, as an example, if you're a Lionel Messi fan, there's no point spending any time converting someone that thinks Ronaldo's the best player in the world to Lionel Messi. It's not going to happen. Don't waste your energy.
Do you want another example of that sort of thing? So which I'm sure we'll get to it, the Pope penalty, Gyokeres and Pope penalty. There's quite a difference of opinion whether it was a penalty, whether it was not. And I've had a bit of back and forth with people on whether it's a penalty and it's not. In my opinion, it was a stonewall penalty. He's absolutely folded him as he's gone round him if he didn't take him out. But then I've got people going, he won the ball. He didn't win the ball. Gyokeres kicked it onto his little toe, which he flicked it. But trying to change that opinion of that person is almost impossible.
There's no point. But again, the point is that we should be able to agree to disagree and move on. It shouldn't need me to have to abuse you or your views or your like. We should just be able to go, I disagree. That's the beauty of football, right? That's again, even last night we could go to the the Celtic goal that was disallowed for handball when it was nowhere near his hand, right?
When he headed it,
so I could spend an hour talking about the wrongness of it. But what's the point? Because it was like, if you can't see that with VAR or anything else, and so then we could go to VAR. Like, you just got to let some stuff go.
I did like to see the pettiness of Rangers fans who were putting the video up and going stonewall handball just to and some of the comments and the biting from it was amazing. I do like that.
Yeah, look, and there is some good fun out there, right? And talking of good fun, it felt like good fun at the time, but actually, did that good fun cost Graham Potter his job in the end? Because actually, breaking news last Saturday, kind of messaged you early on going, wow, he's gone, this and strange day to do it. But was it actually the fact that meme or those memes had gone so sort of viral that actually he was making a laughing stock of the club, and that was the final straw, possibly?
I 100% agree with that, because I said I think we spoke about on the last one. It was funny at the time, but then it almost got to the point where people were taking the piss so much that you go, I don't think we can allow this anymore. And very, very quickly, I think 2 days further along down the line, he's gone. And I 100% believe it was more to do with the memes than it was with the football, because I think they could have probably lived with the football for another couple of weeks, giving him a bit more of a chance.
Well, an international break just around the corner, right? We said about Amarin, that's the next logical time to make a change, right? Saturday morning. Now, again, I don't believe for 1 second that Nuno has come in and gone, if I'm not in charge for the Everton away game, I'm not taking it on board, because actually, Everton away, Arsenal away for your first 2 games doesn't feel like the sort of challenge I'd want to take on. I'd be like, do you know what? Actually, I'll come back after the international break if that's okay, please, where I feel like I've got a bit of time to work with some players, maybe start that turnaround. And by the way, we're playing Brentford on the Monday, so I've got a little bit more time and a little bit of a nice fix it, because that would be a nice feel good moment, right? But actually, what you've done is you've thrown him into the den of Everton away. And to be fair, they did a good job. Actually, probably not probably West Ham's best performance and result of the season. Well, not in a Forest away was probably a better result, of course, but and now you've got Arsenal away. What a horrible introduction to West Ham as a new manager.
Can you see them registering a shot on target against Arsenal? All I can see there is an absolute pumping. It's like you said, it puts him on the back foot immediately, doesn't it? If he gets pumped there and goes into an international break, he's already on the back foot.
And talking of managers on the back foot, potentially at risk already is Ange Postecoglou, right? They're already singing "You're getting sacked in the morning." The first time in 100 years that the Nottingham Forest manager hasn't won any of their first 6 matches. The Nottingham Forest fans that I speak to and see online are absolutely having the biggest meltdown I've ever seen in basically accusing the club of throwing away all that hard work they did last season. What have you done? Like it feels like it's gone from being a very upbeat place to be to just desolation.
All I can say to the Forest fans is last season there was a bit of a similar situation with Steve Cooper and Leicester, and the Forest fans were very quick to get on and say he's only been in a little bit, give him some time, all of you lot are entitled. I think the same sort of thing, to be honest. He's just come in. They're trying to change from a style of non-football countering, defensive low block, to this new style that Ange plays, which is very much 8 players all out attack with a few players in defence, pressing high as opposed to sitting in. I think they've just got to give him some time. Like, if anyone thought that this was going to change in 2 weeks and the results were going to flip and they're going to score 4 goals, every single comment you saw was this is a huge risk because of the change of style. So I think they've just got to almost eat a little bit of humble pie here, and the advice they gave the Leicester fans around Steve Cooper, they've got to take that advice on board and just give him a bit of time for me. Like, it's been a terrible start, don't get me wrong, but you're changing from water to wine. Like, it's a huge contrast of styles and lots of changes required.
Yeah, I think last night's result was a bad one. Everybody thought they would win that one. Like that felt like right. This is where we start the turnaround, and we'll come on to it, of course. But I think, okay, I'll tell you early doors that they're involved in my banker of the weekend, but it's not a positive banker of the weekend. So I don't see it picking up this weekend at all for them. In fact, I thought Newcastle looked amazing this week with the new front three, and I think they'll cause that Nottingham Forest, and of course Alanga going. Playing against his former team, I think could be a real problem for the club if he does have the performance like he did on Tuesday night. I think it was Tuesday night against Union out in Belgium.
They were one of the teams that they're in my £5 challenge, Newcastle, and they were also possibly going to be my banker, but I've gone a different way. So we've got different bankers, but they were definitely in my thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. So a very whistle-stop tour of some headlines there, and a whistle-stop tour in the sense that the Premier League starts tonight, as they said on The Greatest Showman, 8 p.m. Bournemouth host Fulham, which could be a really entertaining game. Both teams doing some good stuff, but results are a little bit up and down. Bournemouth obviously kind of having to snatch a late equaliser against Leeds, and we both had Bournemouth as an absolute shoo-in last week. So this could be a really interesting game, couldn't it?
I think it's got the potential to be a really good game. 2 teams that like to attack, be on the front foot. A fair bit of pace in both teams as well. So I think as a Friday night game, when I look down the rest of the fixtures, I think they've probably got it right, in my opinion. I think this is a good game to put on telly.
The only thing that worries me now is that, and I don't know how long the injury was for, so I haven't done that research, so forgive me, but Jimenez going off early after scoring. He looks like he's out. Obviously, Rodrigo Muniz out as well. Not sure either of them are going to make it for tonight's game. They look a little bit light in that number 9, don't they? A little bit light in the forward roles for them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who they play up there. Probably play Harry Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there must be somebody coming through, mustn't there? But I don't know who would be next in line, if I'm honest.
Yeah, well, it says Jimenez has got a 75% chance of playing on fantasy.
Right, okay.
I know it's not the be all and end all, but
Yeah, but they just look a little bit. So the issue for Fulham could be, and I know that Alex Iwobi's chipping in with some great performances and some great results. Like I say, Harry Wilson when he comes on, is doing some good stuff. But just for me, in that centre forward role, they just look a little bit like if they did lose a Jimenez. Like I say, Alex Iwobi probably can't do it. Although interestingly, sort of Kevin and Samuel Chukwueze could fill some of that attacking space, but neither of them are a 9.
yeah, they might have to change that up and either play a false 9. I mean, I've got no idea whether any of those two have ever played up front before in the number 9 role or even in the 10 role. They're predominantly wingers, aren't they? So, yeah, I mean, I've gone with a Bournemouth 2-1 win just because I think that at home they're probably going to have too much at home. And you mentioned the strikers could be out. Fulham don't typically score a lot of goals as well. Where when Bournemouth play well, they generally score goals. So I've gone 2-1 Bournemouth.
Well, to use the noise that we've started to use, ding, 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 I've got exactly the same as that. Yeah, 2-1 Bournemouth. Again, we keep talking about what Bournemouth are doing. I've been really impressed with what they've done. I think at home, they'll be just too strong for a Fulham team that could be missing a few. And so, yeah, I've gone exactly the same. This one, the next game could be interesting in the sense that I guess historically we would go for an away win. There is a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. The other thing to bear in mind is that there is some pretty bad weather predicted for Saturday in terms of very high winds. So bearing in mind that could have an impact on the sort of football you can play. So the 12:30 kickoff is Leeds versus Tottenham at Ellen Road. Now there's a whole bunch of statistical reasons why I'm going the way I'm going, but how impressed how impressed have you been with the start that Leeds have made this season?
I think, and just to chuck in the other two promoted, I've been very impressed with all 3 promoted teams, to be honest. I think they've come up and they've shown what you need to do in the window, also how you need to go about the games mentally. You need to go at the game and try and win the game, score goals, which I think the 3 promoted teams didn't. And I think it shows you how embarrassing those 3 were when they came up last season, as opposed to these 3 this season. I think they've done a really good job. Leeds in particular, I think he's just evolved that style of play a little bit more. They were so possession based, weren't they, in the Championship, which I think he's just tweaked it and realised that it's not going to be that way in the Premier League. And he's signed players which are defensively strong as well. So those wingers work back and track, so they work as a team defensively and attacking. I think they're a well-rounded, structured team.
Yeah, what they've done better this year is that they're getting the maximum bang for their goals, aren't they? They've played 6, scored 6, but got 8 points. So to score 6 goals and get 8 points is again, because statistically that's a good return on that investment. And interestingly, if they beat Tottenham in the 12:30 kickoff, they go level on points with Tottenham, and they will jump into the top 4, top 5, depending on how the Bournemouth Fulham game goes. So they're going to be right ahead. But more importantly, I keep referring back to it. If they beat Tottenham, they'll be 10 points ahead of Wolverhampton Wanderers, 7 points above West Ham and Burnley, and 6 points above Nottingham Forest. So again, this is the bit of a free hit for Leeds in the sense that, most people would assume Tottenham will win this game because of, where they've been. But actually, if they can get this right, and by the way, I'm predicting a Leeds win because for a whole bunch of reasons. Firstly, promoted team do well against Tottenham. Secondly, early kickoff and thirdly, it goes into an international break. And Tottenham haven't won the game before an international break in, I think, the last 15 international breaks. So they have got a terrible record going into international breaks. This, for me, is all of the markings of one of those early morning upset results that ruin your ACCA straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone 1-1, so I can't see either team winning. I don't think both teams score enough goals, and I think they're relatively sound at the back to not concede 2. So I've gone 1-1, but I think it's going to be a good game. I do, even though Spurs' style isn't like what it was under Ange, and it's as free flowing. Like you could probably even go down the lines of it's a little bit boring. They're still, he's still changing the style defensively. I mean, Spurs would have 100% have taken. They were shipping goals last season. They'd have taken this style to shore up at the back, and then I think he's just going to build on that going forward. So I like what Thomas Frank's doing there. I just don't think they've got enough goals in them at the minute.
Yeah, well, I would agree and disagree in equal measures of what you just said there. Again, I think Spurs are overperforming based on the performances. I think they've got a lot of questions that need answering going forward. Defensively, they do look more sound, but again, let's just cast our mind back. Wolverhampton Wanderers were the whipping boys of the league. We spoke last week about Dr. Tottenham, and this will give us a sense of whether they have moved forward or not. Wolverhampton Wanderers came away devastated they didn't win that game. Tottenham looked inept. They looked, and again, I watched, even after me saying, I don't like the Saturday 8 o'clock kickoff, I did put myself through it for the most part. I did get very bored of watching Tottenham not do anything, and they made Wolverhampton Wanderers look like a very good team. Spurs again stunk the place out midweek, so that's now 4 games on the trot that they've got away with it. Whether that's a late equaliser, Tottenham are in danger of becoming a problem, and they've got some real key issues to work out. Jed Spence might be very good defensively, but he's horrific going forward. No left winger to speak of. Xavi Simons isn't a left winger. Do you really need a Bentancur and Paulinho double pivot? There's a lot of answers, and it feels to me like they've gone backwards. And I'd be interested in your take. It looks to me they've gone backwards from that game against PSG, where in the Super Club they attacked. They played a different shape, albeit 3-5-2 or 5, whatever. But they went toe to toe with PSG for 80 minutes. I don't know what's happened to Thomas Frank and Tottenham. They've gone backwards in my eyes.
I think he's got to be a little bit more fluid with his lineups, hasn't he? Like you mentioned, Jed Spence. If you're playing a team like PSG, you can probably put Jed Spence in and a doggy on the other side. But if you're playing a team like Wolves, play Pedro Porro. He's got far more about him going forwards, hasn't he? Play Pedro Porro. Same as like you mentioned, if you've got two defensive midfielders, you don't need that against Wolves. You need one of them. I mean, Paulinho, I think, can probably do the job of Bentancur by himself. Just play Paulinho. He's an unbelievable player defensively. Then put your midfielders, play Xavi Simons, Maddison, I know he's injured, but you get what I'm trying to say. Play those players in the middle of the park so you've got some creativity. Because I'm seeing this trend with quite a lot of teams is they're playing midfielders, but they're either playing them out of position or expecting them to do something that they've not got in them just because they're a midfielder. There's different roles in midfield for a reason. Don't put a defensive midfielder in the 8, in the 10, and just because you're playing a good side and then go, why are we not creating? That might be the reason why. Like you'd be better for me. You'd be better off dropping another striker into the 10, play them as a pair up front, and then have one dropping in deep just to defensively pick up the defensive midfielder. I think teams have just got too structured with their lineups, and they need to just be a bit more flexible.
Yeah, look, I think we've spoke about this a lot. Is that football's in danger of eating itself for a couple of reasons. All I see anywhere now is people moaning about the cost of going to games. You add that to the fact that many of these teams' products is not that great in terms of entertainment. If I've got £100 to spend on entertainment, I wouldn't be spending any of it on Tottenham Hotspur. Personally, I wouldn't be spending it on Arsenal either. I think the football is not great. The difference is that Arsenal are going to try and win a league, so therefore you probably get away with it for a season. But if Arsenal don't win the league this season, the Arsenal fans at some point are going to start turning against that, spending all that money. On the flip side of that, if Tottenham do manage to beat Leeds away, they go to 14 points. They'll be sat in second. And actually, that's a phenomenal start to a season, even if the football hasn't been, hasn't it? So actually, this is again, on both sides of that coin, it's a massive game to where it could lead you at the end of the season, isn't it?
It is, but like you mentioned around, say, entertainment in football, we've spoken about it. Like it was quite refreshing to watch PSG versus Barca. In my opinion, the only 2 teams that are entertaining in the world. And I think, I may have missed some teams out there here and there, but I mean, for me, from what I've seen, I don't enjoy watching anyone apart from PSG and Barcelona. You then look at all the other teams that have gone so heavy on the athleticism over technical ability that all you're seeing now is runners. And I went to watch the Leicester game and I saw one player do a 5-yard pass and it went out of play. And everyone in the ground just went, what on earth is going on? And I just think, like you said, football is in danger of eating itself. I paid 30 quid for that ticket midweek in the Championship. Like it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, we definitely need to get our heads around price points across the board. By the way, that's not just football. Everywhere, I think people are just putting the price up to find out what the breaking point is.
100%. I told you a little while ago. We mentioned it a few weeks ago that I went to go and watch non-league a few weeks ago. It's 15 quid to get in.
Yeah, it's nuts.
15 quid.
Yep. It's absolutely bonkers, mate. Like I say, as 1,000 times, there's a big League One game 10 minutes from my front door taking place on Saturday, massive League One game. But I can't justify 52 quid for me and my boy. I just can't.
Yes.
I can't justify it.
And especially after next week, you've got the international break, and you'll see all of this support non-league. I think a lot of people would actually be supporting non-league more, even during Premier League games, if the prices reflected what you're getting. If you could go there and you could have a beer for £2.50, £3, and your ticket for £5, people would probably spend 20, 25 quid in the ground.
Yeah. Again, you're absolutely right. The style of football is important, and a lot of these teams are going to find that they're not going to be selling out this season, even though they'll report they have. And I think Tottenham, for a couple of reasons, obviously losing Heung-min Son and the style of football they're playing, I think if Thomas Frank doesn't turn this around, you'll start to see that stadium with gaps in the fan base. So Leeds United host Tottenham 12:30. You've gone for?
I've gone for 1-0.
I've gone for Leeds United 2, Tottenham Hotspur 1. Probably my most unsure of the weekend. The rest of it, I think I'm quite happy with. But like I say, I do feel, based on all that evidence I gave you, that Leeds will win. We follow that with what we're both going to just rattle through as a home win. Arsenal at the Emirates, 3:00 against West Ham. I can't make any stake for West Ham because Arsenal are just so good defensively. Like, even if Nuno's turned West Ham into prime Nottingham Forest for last season, I still think Arsenal will find a way. They've got strength in depth. They bring Odegaard off the bench, they bring Saka off the bench. They've got a couple of injuries, but they're now starting to get some players back. I think this is just a pick a score and move on sort of conversation, really.
The only thing I could say is I tried my best to almost build an accumulator, a bet builder that was going to give me some value. And the best I could come up with is like 1 to 2. I mean, the 1 to 5. So it's just pointless. And that just tells you everything you need to know about the game.
Yeah, I can't. Like I say, it's too early in his tenure. I think maybe if he'd have had 5 or 6 weeks with that West Ham squad, maybe he could have come up with a game plan. But Arsenal are so strong defensively that I just don't see it. I can't, a Q West Ham 1, Arsenal 0, but I just don't think there will be any chances. So I've gone Arsenal 2, West Ham 0.
I've gone 3-0. The only thing, I thought West Ham looked better, like you said, going forwards and defensively, but I can see Gyokeres eating that defence up, pulling onto Max Kilman. He is possibly the most overrated player in the Premier League for me. I think Gyokeres will destroy him.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, do you have the left wing back or left full back?
Very good. Player? Yeah, they've got a player there.
So they've done some good recruitment, and like the thing that everybody forgot about what Nuno did last season with Nottingham Forest is they overperformed. Like, I didn't see, and I watched a lot of them last season because, as we both did, because it was an interesting journey, and are they going to finish top 4? I didn't see them dominate a team once, not once, but I saw them beat teams regularly with 1 chance or 2 chances. If they had 2 chances, they scored 2 goals. Wood was on that kind of crazy run.
That was it. They overperformed as a team in general defensively, but then they had one player who went through a purple patch, which, I mean, as Chris, he scored. I think he scored in the first game, didn't he? But he's been unheard of since.
He scored last night. He scored the second goal in the 90 whatever minute from a penalty last night as well. But and by the way, I actually think I prefer Igor Jesus. He looks like a player. But the point is that he got that squad to work. Morgan gives White pulling strings. Alanga stretching them out. Hudson-Odoi was doing bits and pieces. He overperformed, so he could do the same with like a Jarrod Bowen. They've got a full, so they have got a centre forward that could go on a run like Wood did. They have got a winger in Jarrod Bowen that could do some stuff like Alanga and the other guys did, but it's going to take him a while to get there. So for me, this is far too early in his tenure, and it's a comfortable home win for me, no doubt about it. But moving on to Old Trafford, where Manchester United host Sunderland. Now this one, I would like to watch this one live. This one could be anything. I mean, we spoke about the newly promoted team. Sunderland have been amazing. They're doing a really great job of attacking the Premier League. And this is a massive game for Manchester United, isn't it?
It is. And I've just looked at the odds, and Man United are 1 to 2 on. I think that's a horrendous price.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That's the biggest overpriced game I've seen in ages. Sunderland have performed really well, but they're not like, you remember when Blackpool came up and for a period they tore teams to bits and you were like, whoa, like they're not like that. They're just really solid defensively. They attack with pace and can score the odd goal. I mean, for me, there's one result that stands out. I've gone Man U 0, Sunderland 1. I
Okay.
can't see United beating Sunderland, which it'll probably happen. They're at home. They're bigger. They've got better players in general. They're just not a better team, in my opinion. So I think at the prices, 19-4 Sunderland. I'm going 1-0 Sunderland.
There's a couple of subplots that are very interesting to this. One of them being that the rumour is that, well, the two rumours is that the board have come downstairs and said to Amron, you need to play 4-3-3. So the first one would be very interesting to see if that is true in the sense that he changes his shape. The second one is that they've also said to him that we're going to fire you anyway, but we're going to wait till next month because you're cheaper. The package is cheaper. So if either of those two things are true, he's a dead man walking, right? Because if the board are coming down saying you've got to play 4-3-3, even though we recruited you to play 3-4-2-1 specifically, and then if you go back beyond that, I think it was Dan Ashworth that said like he's not the right man for the job, and they fired him for saying it. And so now his stock's gone up. The whole thing is a shambles. So this game is massive for the whole club in terms of what's going on behind the scenes, who was right, who was wrong. Don't even mention the league table, because if Manchester United lose that game and results go against them, Madrid, think how low they could be down. Like this is a huge game.
It is, and it's also huge for Sunderland, because if you'd have said this game, like even if you just say the game out loud, Man United versus Sunderland, straight away, immediately, your head goes to Sunderland will lose this game.
Yeah.
It's just the natural way you would think. You look at the games that Sunderland have played, the table itself. If Sunderland can get something here, they're pushing themselves further and further away from the bottom of that table, but also dragging teams like Man United into it. And it sounds a silly thing to say. They're in it. There's teams are in and around the bottom of the table, which United are. They could be in trouble. I'm not saying they'll get relegated, but if teams like Sunderland and Leeds keep doing what they're doing and just edging further and further away, before you know it, they could be in trouble. It's a huge game.
It goes back to my point that if Sunderland do win, they'll be 13 points clear of Wolves. They'll be 9 points clear of West Ham, Burnley. They'll be 8 points clear of Forest. All of a sudden, and again, we've seen it loads of times where a team get off to a good start, and then the international break might come at the wrong time for them, and their form starts to dip. So the more you can get whilst your form is good and whilst you're doing well is essential. And 14 points after 7 games, 2 points a game average would have been beyond any Sunderland fans' wildest dreams, and sets them up for potentially that mid-table dogfight rather than that bottom 3 dogfight, which it would be a phenomenal achievement in season 1.
Absolutely. All they need to do is stay up there, aren't they? Whether they finish fourth, obviously Champions League, but if they finish 4th or 17th, they just need to stay up this season.
Yes.
That's what that spending. That's what the pot that they've spent in the window was for. Was just to stay up, and then you go again. What Bournemouth have done, what Brighton have done, what Fulham have done, all really well. Man United, on the other hand, keep spending money and seem to be getting worse. Looks like they're gonna have to sack Amram at some point. I think if my prediction comes true in the lose to Sunderland, he'll be gone, 100%. Where do they go from here? Because they haven't got the ability to spend money. PSR is going to kick in.
And apparently Gareth Southgate, again, I'm only reading what I'm reading, so I don't know Gareth Southgate or anybody close to him, but Gareth Southgate apparently has come out and said that he's not interested in the role at this current time. He was the choice that Ashworth wanted to put in. There was a big power struggle at board level around the two. So, Manchester United need to be very careful that they don't become very irrelevant very quickly, because if Sunderland start finishing above them in the league, that is a really worrying statement for that club.
I think Glasner's probably their go-to choice.
Yeah,
he plays a similar style, and the players that have been bought for Amorim, I think he'd definitely get a better tune. But we spoke about it. Why would you go there? I know it's Manchester United, but Palace are 19 unbeaten. I love their bio, by the way, in Twitter. Just 19 unbeaten.
It's great.
Why would you go there? Like, take a bigger club, more money. I get all of that, but why would you leave Palace at the minute the way that they're going?
I think that's a really important point in life, is that I've seen so many football players leave a club where they're absolutely bossing it. And again, let's go back in time. Eden Hazard, as a prime example was one of the Premier League's best players, absolute mustard.
World's best players.
Yeah, just unbelievable. And getting paid a good whack at Chelsea as well. Let's not get it wrong. Like, he wouldn't have been on 50 grand a week. to go to Real Madrid and for it to end as badly as it did at this point, like just sometimes, just if it's working, just stay where you are. Like, because he could be, he is a Chelsea, but he could have been an all-time great in the Premier League if he'd have stayed and carried on playing the way he played at Chelsea. Sometimes if you're happy and it's working, just chill out. You're doing okay. Like I get that if you come and double my salary, it changes mine and my family's life. But if I'm earning 300 grand a week to 400 grand a week, I probably don't really notice the difference. If I'm honest.
No, I agree. Agree entirely.
Like I
Grass
just
isn't
think
always greener.
just if it's working well, like if you're a centre forward and you're banging in, like again, you think about all them centre forwards that move because they've had a season where they bang in a load of goals and they go to another team and they don't score any. Like, you need the system, you need the happiness, all that stuff. But anyway, I've gone for a draw here. I've gone for an entertaining draw, but I'm not sure it will be 2-2. But I've gone for 2-2. But I could see this just as easily being 0-0 or 1-1. Very impressed with Sunderland. Very unimpressed with Manchester United. And again, another team whose signings that we thought at the time were going to add some strength really aren't making any impact in Cunha and Mbeumo. However, I do think that the system is letting them down as well, and I think they would be far more. I personally believe a 4-3-3 would see them perform much better, and also get the best out of Fernandes as well. But we shall see. International break coming up. Be interesting to see whether Emram's still around. This game has got fascinating, and again, this could be anything, man. Chelsea 5:30 kickoff. Stamford Bridge hosts Liverpool. Liverpool obviously off the back of a disappointing result midweek. Injuries starting to mount up. Alisson, although being honest with you, I think Liverpool have arguably got the best understudy in world football, so not the worry that it would be for some teams. Go to a Chelsea that can't keep 11 players on the pitch.
I've really struggled with this game because I think Chelsea have been started well, but have looked dreadful of late. I think is João Pedro injured? Oh, he got sent off. Then is he suspended, or is that European suspension?
European suspension, not Premier.
I was going to say, because I don't think they had a forward available, which João Pedro is available then. But I mean, they look weak at the back, Chelsea. Every time teams go forward against them, they look like conceding. Then you flip this to Liverpool. On paper, Liverpool should tank Chelsea. And I've just edged to a Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1 win. But I don't say that with confidence because I think Liverpool are playing very poorly at the minute. I just think Chelsea are probably playing as poor. So I've gone for Liverpool 2-1, but I think it's a really hard game to predict.
Yeah, well, obviously Chalobah's out, who's been arguably their best defender because obviously he was sent off last week, so he's out. I found this one difficult as well, based on a whole bunch of stuff and all you've mentioned. Whether which Liverpool turn up. I actually think there'll be goals in this game because actually, both teams have shown a weakness at the back. Obviously, Liverpool conceding 2 goals again last weekend. I've actually gone for another draw, and I've gone for another 2-2. But I don't say that with any confidence on any of it at all. I just think that there will be goals, but I could easily see this being 3-2, 2-1, either way.
Yeah, I mean, from a betting perspective, Liverpool at 13-10. I still think you look at their squad; they've still got depth. Whereas you look at Chelsea's, so lots of suspensions, lots of injuries, and they are conceding goals. And I think Maresca is increasingly coming under more and more pressure from the fans.
Well, so that's what I was about to ask you. Do you think that actually, again, or maybe is Liverpool a free hit, but actually Chelsea, 1 point out of the last 3 games, does that pressure them? Chelsea are a team that don't hang about again. International window following. If they lost that, 3 losses on a bounce, and they won 1-0, didn't they, in Europe? So they won in Europe. Do you think that Maresca is at risk of next on the line?
Yeah, I don't think he's at risk of being sacked. I think the pressure will start ramping up on him, though, just because Chelsea's a big club and the pressure's there immediately from when you get going. And he's done good things since he's been there. But the progress just seems to have halted slightly. So I definitely, I've gone for a loss here for Chelsea. So I do think the pressure will start to ramp up on him because the performances have just dwindled. Like, it's becoming predictable and boring. And I think Maresca just needs to try and change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I keep reverting back to this, but after 7 games, if Liverpool did beat Chelsea, they'd be 10 points clear of Chelsea after 7 games. And I think Chelsea. I'm not saying that Chelsea came into the season expected to win the league, but they certainly expect to be challenging. They certainly expect to be right bang in the mix a lot longer than 7 games in. So I think there's quite a lot of pressure. And like I said, Chelsea are one of them teams that they just, don't hang about. You don't get time to turn it around. excuse me, three bad results back to back like that, and again with an international break where the owners might get bored. And like I say, the teams they're putting out, the squad they're putting out doesn't look good. Like they haven't got a player that's performing, that's dragging out. Cole Palmer out injured obviously doesn't help, but Gittings hasn't come in and done any good. The fans are getting up because Madawaki's left and looks like he's doing better at Arsenal and never replaced with average. How have you made Pedro Neto look like a Bob average Premier League footballer? Like when he was at Wolves, he was phenomenal. I haven't seen him have a good game for Chelsea yet.
I think it comes down to what we spoke with Maresca in the past. They try to leave fullbacks isolated, but the game plan is pretty much give it to the winger and see what they can do. And all defensively teams do is shuffle their midfielder over to stop him coming inside and try and show him down the line. Which, when he's left-footed going down the line, the right-hand side, he's not going to cross it. He's always going to turn back. So you end up just going back into the same avenues that you have. So I think the style of play for Maresca is very limited. It's do plan A, and if it doesn't work, do it better. It just needs to find that difference, which I do feel a bit for him, because I think his difference maker would have been Delap. More, give it to a bigger man, hold it up, get men around him. So I think he has been limited to what he can do with these injuries. But you've got to play with the hand that you dealt with. And I think at the minute he's not getting the best out of the players that he's got, because you look at that midfield, the two in midfield is as good as anything in the league.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. But the rest of it around is not. The rest of it is not.
They should still be with the team that went out against Brighton. They should still be beating Brighton. They should still be beating other teams. They should not be drawing to a Manchester United team that looks relegation candidates.
Well, they lost, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like for me, Chelsea look like, when you've been playing Football Manager for so long that you get bored and you just make transfers for the sake of it, and then you end up going, oh, I've sold some really good players and I bought some bang average nonsense. And I just feel like Chelsea are at that stage now where I look at their squad and go, Buonanotte, Gittins,
Buonanotte was such a random signing. They didn't need him.
But it's not that they're bad play, but they're just not like for me. Chelsea, I know I'm old, but I now have that kind of recent recollection of them having the Eden Hazards, the Drogbas, the Terrys, the Lampards, the Ian Robin. I used to love watching him and Duff. I'm just used to them being packed full of superstars.
Their only star player is Cole Palmer, but he wasn't bought as a star player, was he? He's almost developed into their star player.
I just look at their squad and go, that's a lot of noise for my phrase of that's all fart and no smell. Like they've made a lot of noise in moving players around, but their squad's weaker for me.
Who's the last player they signed where you'd have gone, wow, like that's a statement signing? Because Cole Palmer wasn't at the time. When he was signed for that amount, he was almost ridiculed. So I can't think of the last player they signed, because it used to be that way, didn't it? They signed players and you went, wow, got him.
All the time.
And the same, United went down that route, didn't they? Like Casemiro was a statement signing and stuff, and they've almost now gone away from that model, which I think is the correct thing to do for them. But Chelsea are at a different level. Like they should be signing some statement signings. Like Nicholas Jackson was a work in progress. Delap is a work in progress. Like there's quite. I can't remember the last statement signing they made.
Well, it'll be Caicedo and Enzo, wouldn't it?
They were both young and still, bought for potential wise. You wouldn't have said they were the best midfielders in the world at the time.
But they were bought for a lot of money, weren't they? But so yeah, but like I said, I completely agree. I think Chelsea have lost their way. So sorry, you've gone for what, 2-1 Liverpool, have you?
I've gone for Chelsea 1, Liverpool 2, yeah.
So I've gone for another Desmond 2-2. We've now got a very busy Sunday with the European football kicking off on Thursday night. I think some of these are a little bit easier than others. We'll start with one that I think is pretty straightforward now, because Aston Villa look like they're starting to turn a corner, starting to play a little bit better as a squad, scoring some goals. They host Burnley 2:00 at Villa Park. I'll go early on mine. I don't see this being a high-scoring affair. I've got Aston Villa 1, Burnley 0, but I am seeing signs of Aston Villa return that corner, as I said.
I am seeing signs of Aston Villa having a bit of life breathed into them. They're just starting to look offensively a bit better, aren't they? I think a few of the players are starting to bed in, and they're looking like they're knowing. As soon as Ollie Watkins hits a little bit of form as well, which there's signs of him doing it. Like he's attacking now. He's running at players, isn't he? He's trying to get into the right positions. He just looks bereft of confidence up front. I think as soon as one goes in, they'll in turn pick up even further. I've gone Villa 2, Burnley 0.
Yeah, and obviously Burnley, got that impressive win against Sunderland, who have been absolutely, but since then have kind of reverted back to type. However, they'll be thinking at 4 points, they're still in the mix. Like they're not dead and buried already, are they? They're still in the mix of, they can just pick up a couple of points. Maybe, pick and choose who they're against. They might have enough to finish 17th if they can do that.
Well, that's the main reason why I included them in when we were talking about the promoted teams, because they've still given it a good go. I just don't think their squad's as capable as the other two. They don't have as much going forward, so they're having to do it in a different way. But I think they've given it a decent go. Like the performance against Liverpool the other week, I thought defensively they were superb. So they do it in a different style, but yeah, they probably just need to pick up a few more home wins, don't they? Really.
The one thing I would say is that I didn't think that we'd all be clamouring to get a Burnley player into our fantasy, and Jayden Anthony is doing some great bits and pieces. He's definitely the leading light, isn't he? And very high point scorer in fantasy. And if they can just add some strength around him, like you say, pick and choose your games, because there are some teams, again, you think about Burnley. I know that they played Manchester United away. That was an unlucky defeat. It shouldn't have been a defeat. You haven't watched the game myself personally. You'd give them a chance against West Ham, Wolves. Actually, if they can just stay around it until the January window and add some quality, that they could. I mean, it's a long shot, but they could maybe give themselves a chance.
Yeah, well, they're definitely. I'd be giving them more of a chance than from what I've seen, like you said, of Wolves, of West Ham at times. Like, at least they've got a game plan and it works. Like, you can see what he's trying to do with the squad that he's got. So, I mean, for me, try and target a point against Villa. Go there, almost set up like you did against Liverpool. Try and nick a point away from home, and then get back to your home games and try and pick up some wins.
Yeah, we need to remember that Aston Villa, their league table position isn't false, because that's what they deserve to be, but it's false in the sense that their squad is better than that. And actually, we all expect them to be challenging for Europe this season. So this is still what you would have as a home banker. So, like I say, if they can get a point here, it's a great result. But so I don't think they're getting a point. I said I've gone Villa 1, Burnley 0. You've gone for?
I've gone for Villa 2, Burnley 0.
Fine. Yeah, I think as we can see, the goals are going to be the problem for Burnley. Obviously, trying to come back from a heavy defeat against Man City last week that was left late in the day, shall we say. Another interesting game at Winn-Dixie or Hill Dickinson or whatever it's called. Winn-Dixie is an American supermarket, by the way, for those that don't know. Everton host Crystal Palace at home, 2:00 kickoff. Crystal Palace. Say?
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, a little bit of Jonathan Wass. It's all right, don't worry. Crystal Palace looking for that 20th game unbeaten. The thing for me about Crystal Palace that's so impressive is that they lost their main man, their talisman, in terms of Eze, and they haven't dropped a beat, have they? They still play the same way. The guys that have come in have done a great job. They rested a couple of players yesterday. The thing that's going to be interesting for this Palace squad is around 2 games a week now. Can they continually deliver at that level, playing Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Monday? Because it is wear and tear on the body, isn't it? And they're a couple of injuries away from looking quite light, aren't they?
They've won both European games, haven't they?
They definitely won last night 2-0, and looked impressive. Last night was their first one, I'm sure.
Yeah, was it? Yeah.
No,
so I'm just thinking, if they progress in they're in the conference. They're in the conference, aren't they? If they progress in the conference in the first few weeks, they'll almost be able to rotate, won't they? And some of the teams that they'll play. So I agree, it's going to have an impact. But I think if they play it well, it should give them an opportunity to get other players some minutes, and actually it might work in their favour a little bit as well. Bring a few youth players in and that sort of thing, because some of the teams are going to come up in the conference. I'm going to say reserves. I don't mean it that way, but they should almost be able to do that and still compete. So for me, it could be a bit of a positive. But I mean, like I said it before, it didn't surprise me that Palace won. I thought they'd take a point against Liverpool. They're a very underrated side still. I still don't think they're getting the plaudits that they deserve. Like you said, they've lost players consistently, but they'll have players that come in and do the job. They know the system well. Like Mateta up front is a real handful. Like he's gone from having a purple patch to this is him now. It's his 2.5 seasons of him. Like he's a phenomenal forward, and you've got the players around him that just they work hard. Like Adam Wharton is, in my opinion, generational talent. Like the fullbacks or wingbacks are unbelievable going forward, but know what they're doing defensively. Like I think they're a very, very good side. And I mean, when I look at the odds here, they're near enough 2-1 to beat Everton. I like what Everton are doing, but to me, it's a juicy price on Palace. I mean, I've gone 1-1 because I think Everton have got a bit about them, but good game. I like the game.
I've also gone 1-0, by the way, and I agree with everything you just said there around Crystal Palace. Mateta now called into the France squad for the first time. Unbelievable achievement.
Mateta Stuta, get him in.
Listen, like you say, Ismail Assar is doing some great pieces. Adam Wharton is going to be some bum fight for him next summer. They're going to make some money on that kid because he's going to go for pick a number and double it. Because all of the clubs all around the world, there's not a single club that wouldn't be better with Adam Wharton in their team. So that would be some interesting kind of opportunity for someone to explore. And actually, they find Everton at a time where Everton had started really brightly, but actually there's a little bit of kind of negativity creeping in now. Obviously, you kind of expect
offended
already, yeah. Although he's very happy about it, and he's not bitter.
You know what? I'm amending. I'm going 2-1 Palace. Now I've just remembered Dewsbury Hall. I'm going 2-1 Palace. Change it up.
Dewsbury Hall's that important to Everton, is he?
I think from the start that I've seen from him, though, he's very much the driving force in midfield, and Beto up front doesn't look like he's particularly any good this season. They're very heavily reliant on Jack Grealish. And without, there was a lovely little combination going between Grealish and Dewsbury Hall, like for the games that I've seen where they're combining together nicely, rotating positions. And without him in the team, I think they'll struggle a bit more. I've just tipped the balance to Palace now.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with 1-1 because I do think that at home, Everton have got, trying to build a fortress in the new stadium. Everyone that's been there is glowing about it. Everton are a difficult team to beat. They are essentially being built in David Moyes' style, right? That they are meat and veg. They are get the ball into good areas and try and get some outcomes off the back of it. And I think Crystal Palace, just based on the fact that they've started that European campaign, could be carrying some heavy legs. Might be a bit of rotation. And being honest with you, looking at the Conference League, I think Crystal Palace have got a real chance of winning it. And actually, might they get to the point and do a bit of what Spurs did last year and kind of go, do you know what, we're safe in the league. Let's give our fans another night to remember forever and try and win the Conference League off the back of an FA Cup win. And that's their route to Europe next season, potentially.
Especially if they get to January and they're in an unbelievable position in the Conference League table where they can go, do you know what, we need some reinforcements here, bring in two, 3 players. They might cash in Guehi and start making those moves in January. So that's going to be a very interesting time for them to see what they do.
Yeah, and can they keep hold of all these players? Because there's lots of teams that need a number 9. So there's someone coming from Mateta. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But so anyway, I've gone Everton 1, Palace 1. You've gone Everton 1, Palace 2. Interesting. Now, my banker of the week is Newcastle United versus Nottingham Forest. So there's going to be no surprise as to what I think the result will be. But what I will say is that I thought the front 3 of Newcastle midweek in the Champions League started to look a little bit exciting. I'd be a little bit excited if I was a Newcastle fan. I thought Gordon, Votamada and Elanga looked good in front of that strong midfield 3 they've got in Joe Linton, Gyokeres and Tonali. The only thing I would say about Newcastle currently is playing Dan Burn at left back with Livramento being out. He's not the solution for me, but going forward, they're starting to look quite exciting.
Is Lewis Hall?
He was on the bench. He came on.
I was about to say, is he due back? So that will be the obvious thing to do shortly when he's fit is put him in because he offers you defensive and attacking options, doesn't he? But I mean, for me, I'm sort of changing my opinion on Dan Burn. I think he's massively underrated. Like, even though, like, against Arsenal, I saw some of the wingers try and run him. And don't get me wrong, because he's a big old unit, I think people think he's slow. He's not slow. Like, he's not rapid, but he's able to keep up in a foot race. And because of his size, he was then getting his arm across them. So I think the more I watch him, the more I think he's underrated. And he's pretty good on the ball. Like, obviously wins everything in the air. So he's not an attacking left fullback. So you are going to lose that. But defensively, what you'll gain with him is a lot more solidity there. And he is relatively decent on the ball. And against this Forest team who look dreadful all over the pitch, I don't think that's going to be too much of a worry.
No, I think Dan Burn is a centre back, not a left back. Is my point.
Yeah, definitely.
I think if you're playing Lewis Hall, and I'm okay with that. And again, it's good to see some strength in depth. But I just thought that Livramento was doing a good job in terms of play either side. England international, etc., etc. I can't make any case for Nottingham Forest here. Like I say, I think Newcastle have got the strength to handle to go toe to toe with the physical battle. I think uh, Nottingham Forest will be absolutely all over the place, and if there's a team that's designed to work on the break and transition with Anthony Gordon and Langer, almost kind of reverse it, reverse Uno in Nottingham Forest, because that's what they had last season in the Langer. I think there could be some wide open spaces for those two to run into.
Yeah, definitely. And we've also got Harvey Barnes as a backup on the bench.
Yeah,
So, like you said, there is some strength in depth, which is in that Newcastle squad. Even though they weren't getting results beginning of the season, I still thought their performances were okay. Like it's not like like Villa where we were going, oh, they look poor. Newcastle have looked okay. Like they just seem to be getting in their stride. And from what I've seen of the games I've watched of them, they do still look that good side. I've seen lots of people calling them cloggers with their physical style. I really like it. And I think Jones said PSG and Barca. I don't mind watching Newcastle. I think Newcastle are one of the only teams that I don't mind watching because they attack with pace and defensively they get stuck in.
yeah. Look, you got to play what you got, right? Newcastle are definitely starting to feel like they're getting back to Newcastle. They definitely feel like they're starting to get back to kind of what we knew of them and the great team that they are and difficult to beat. And obviously, they are in a bad league position in the sense that they're currently 15th. Of course, if they were to lose at the weekend, that Nottingham Forest would jump above them. We'd imagine Aston Villa would jump above them, and so all of a sudden you're talking about Newcastle potentially being as low as 17th, 16th, 17th, which doesn't feel right at all. But I just can't make an argument for this Nottingham Forest team to win this game. Now, I feel like I've gone a bit crazy with the score, if I'm honest with you. I don't know what I was doing this morning. Obviously, I don't know, maybe I had something that's maybe a bit too loud, but I've gone Newcastle 3, Nottingham Forest 2, which I've got no confidence in at all. But I do believe that it'll be a Newcastle winner, hence why they're my bank of the week.
That's an unbelievable game if that comes out.
Yeah.
I've gone for Newcastle 2, Forest 0. I can't see Forest scoring.
Yeah, no. Even when I'm saying it, I don't have any faith in the 3-2. Again, when you talk about, I've got Newcastle in at 11-20, so sort of kind of halving your money in the sense you put 20 quid on, you're going to get 30 odd quid back. That feels to me like quite a sensible odd and one that I'll probably be looking at a little bit more deeper as the time comes around, because I just think that Newcastle are starting to pick up, and you've still got Jan Visser to add to this mix as well when he comes back after the international break as well. So actually, I see Newcastle climbing up that league quite quickly. Another team that needs to climb up the league quite quickly, and off the back of a much more positive result and performance last week, Wolverhampton Wanderers host Brighton and Hove Albion. But for me, this is almost the worst game you can have after a good performance, because you feel like you've turned the corner and you've got to play the team that just makes it very difficult to play against. Like Brighton come off of that great performance and result against Chelsea. I think this is a horrible fixture for Wolverhampton Wanderers, if I'm honest.
I'm going to flip that the other way. I think this is a horrible fixture for Brighton, because you come off the back of a result against Chelsea. You then come into all the expectation that you think everyone should be thinking they should be beating Wolves. And I think it's quite a difficult fixture to go against. You're coming from a high with all this expectation, and you can see Wolves trying to, dig in and make it difficult for them. I mean, I've gone Wolves 0, Brighton 2, but I think this is quite difficult to predict as well. Wolves at home, like you said, having confidence of gaining the first points of the season. I think it's going to be difficult for both teams, but I just think, like you said, the way that Brighton play and the quality that they have will probably shine through.
Yeah, I've gone Wolves 1, Brighton 2 as well. I think Brighton will be. But like I say, I did see some good. There was some good individual performances for that Wolves team last week. They will feel unlucky, and maybe that gives them a glimmer of hope that they can stay in the league, which of course is their diktat for this season. But I don't see them picking up 3 points this weekend, and I think that will probably start to. I don't know who Wolves have got next week. I think they've got a tough game next week as well, haven't they? Or as in next game week, not next week, obviously. Yeah, away to Sunderland. So that would be a real
Massive game.
6-pointer. Yeah, a real 6-pointer for them. So that would be very interesting to see what the next two games bring for Wolverhampton Wanderers in their quest to stay in the league. And finally, we wrap up the game week 4:30 kickoff. Brentford, fresh off the back of that victory against Manchester United, so no doubt buzzing. See what I did there? Host Manchester City. Now this again feels like it could be an entertaining game. And if Thomas Frank was still at Brentford, maybe I'd give. And that's no disrespect to anyone that is there, but just he seemed to have a plan, didn't he, against Manchester City that caused him trouble. But for me, this is going to be quite a comfortable away victory, and I can't really make any sort of case for Brentford at all, I'm afraid.
No, so Man City are my banker of the week. I was flip-flopping between Newcastle or Man City, and I just think City is starting to hit a bit of form. They've obviously got a goal scorer in Haaland, which when I looked at the way that United played, they still caused Brentford a few issues, but the number 9 was just non-existent. And I think when you've got Haaland up there, I think he'll cause them some problems up front. So I think City will just score too many goals here. So I've gone for a City 3, Brentford 1 victory.
I have got exactly Brentford 1, Manchester City 3. I've got exactly that. Yeah, I agree. I think that Manchester City, if they're going to, and again, we're possibly lowering our expectation of Manchester City. With, I'm not quite sure how everyone's fallen off this cliff quite so quickly, but no one's talking about them being sort of Premier League winners this season, even though we've spoken about Liverpool maybe not being quite the team we thought they were. If they're looking for Champions League football, they definitely need to be beating Brentford away, right? Manchester City need this 3 points massively because some of those teams can start to drift away. But again, we've seen it time and time again when Manchester City start a season slowly, pick up after the next international break. You'll see some of those players will start to come back. Remember they've still not got Marmoush, they've still not got Cherky, a couple of those attacking players. And they have changed coaching, backroom coaches, so they're trying to change their style. So, this is a really important game for Manchester City to kick on and up, because if Liverpool did drop a point against Chelsea, all of a sudden Manchester City would be, 3 points behind Liverpool after all that noise and all that kind of kerfuffle. They'd be very close to them, wouldn't
they? Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at their form, which is inclusive of Europe and Cup games. They're unbeaten in 6. So the form is there, and I think when I look at the price, they're 8-13, so they're odds on, but I think that's a decent price for City away. All it takes is a goal early doors, and that's going to mean Brentford have to come out, and I can see them causing problems. Doku with his pace, Savinho if he gets a start. They've got good players still, City, haven't they? Yes, they're still trying to gel and bed those players in, but I think City will have more than enough to win this game.
Yeah, we're both gone for I think that's 3. Is that 3 or 4 results that we both got exactly the same for? There's definitely a few in there. Was it Bournemouth 2, Fulham 1?
Just 2, Bournemouth and Brentford. We did have Palace, but I've changed.
You changed, yeah. Okay, so maybe we need to do the little double there as well, the little double on the correct scores. See what that comes in at as well. Okay, which leads us nicely on to our £5 challenge. Now, you told me before we came on here that we both need to buck our ideas up. It's not looking great for either of us, but maybe mine's a little bit better than yours in terms of financial return.
So on the £5 challenge, we're both minus 25. We've not picked up anything in the £5 challenge front. So from the banker front, I'm minus 14. So I'm basically having a horrendous start to life. But you're £35 up on the banker, so you're doing all right on that.
Wonderful. I don't tell the wife she'll be asking for some of that in marriage tax, no doubt. So let's start with your £5 challenge this week. What have you done and how much does it return?
So as we said, I need to pick up a bit. So I've gone relatively safe. So you're not going to change your life with this, but I've gone Arsenal, City, Newcastle. £5 pays £16.
So interesting. I could have made this a big one in the sense that I could have put Leeds in there because I haven't put Manchester City in there. I ended up having sort of between 3 and 6 teams in this, depending on what time of day you spoke to me. But I've gone for Arsenal, Aston Villa, Newcastle, and Brighton. And the £5 returns just shy of £28. It returns 27.71. With, as I said before, Newcastle being my banker of the week, and you've gone for Manchester City. So again, you're not going to be able to retire off the back of our predictions this week, but nonetheless, need to get some wins back on the board, don't we?
Yeah. Just a couple of wins on the board would be nice. Get us back to sort of level pegging, and then we can go again.
So, as always, Frank, really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Just a little bit over the hour, which is bad chairing by myself, but not as bad as it has been in some weeks, but certainly my favourite hour of the week. Tell people where they can find us, how can they reach out, and if they want to abuse our opinions on Liverpool or any other team for that matter, where can they find us?
So, on social media, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we're on TikTok. Just search for The Atmosphere is Electric. To listen to the episodes, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Fantastic. As always, Fran, love that. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Hopefully, some of those come in for you. Your favourite team wins, whoever you are, whoever they're playing. And I look forward to speaking to you next week, buddy. Well done. Have a great one. Take care.